how you think this tremendous resource of young and first-time voters and the passions even across political parties that Obama sort of slid in on, how do you see activism playing in this, and in what form do you see it? Because I think the internet too often becomes something you can just sort of put in signed position, and then you go back to your YouTube or whatever.
Right. I think one of the most unfortunate things about the first year of the Obama administration is that one of the promises of it was that they were going to be able to circumvent the media dialogue and circumvent the standard Beltway power factions and appeal directly to this huge army of highly engaged and enthused supporters. And that was real. They really did have an army of highly engaged and enthused supporters whose numbers were really quite impressive and could have made a big impact. They completely squandered that. That no longer exists. And the reason it doesn't exist is because they never tapped it. They never asked it to do anything. They instead relied on the standard political power factions in Washington and decided that those armies behind them really weren't any good. They didn't want to cater to them. They didn't want to care about the kinds of values that they thought they were going to have seen fulfilled. And so, I think that whole possibility, that potential that was so exciting, is now over. I don't think you can inject it with that level of disappointment and cynicism and think you're going to reassemble it with some pretty speeches and other symbolic gestures. But one of the things I do want to say is, people who are skeptical about the possibility of activism should only look to the Tea Party movement for whatever you might think of their substantive issues. And I think it's often oversimplified. I don't think that they are this monolithic right-wing band of Fox News watchers and Rush Limbaugh listeners, the way they're often suggested. I think lots of them are people who are just angry, rightfully so, with things like the massive transfer of wealth through Wall Street as part of the bailout, the vast unemployment that nobody seems to care about except for the people who it's affecting, the extreme economic insecurity that they have, and they don't follow politics particularly closely, but they know that the government is harming them directly in very real ways. And so they don't figure out exactly which party is in control and who's responsible, who historically has done more to contribute to it, the old administration or the new. All they know is that they have extremely serious burdens that the government is not only not addressing, but is exacerbating. And they're angry, genuinely, about it. And they're being mobilized. Part of it is self-mobilization, but part of it is they're being exploited. And they've made a huge impact on the political class. I mean, all these developments that we've talked about, the fears that Obama has, the reason why they're not doing robust health care, the reason why they're going to start to cut entitlement programs, the reason they're petrified of civil liberties is because they think there's this huge mass out there, these throngs of people who have made themselves heard. And so when progressives say to me things like, well, what is it that we can do? And why isn't it that we're not being heard? Where are the progressive Tea Party movements? Where is the progressive anger manifesting itself in a way that the political elites can't ignore? I mean, I think that it got filtered and devoted to the Obama campaign. There was an expectation that that was progressive activism, but it turned out that that didn't work. And so, I do think activism works. And I think internet activism works too. I think you've seen successful campaigns. I think progressives on the internet have changed the nature of political discourse in very real ways, of who gets heard, of what kinds of viewpoints are included. I think the media elites are petrified of being humiliated and embarrassed and attacked and disgraced, and that's a good thing, by the hordes of the internet masters who mock and deride them, and that changes behavior in positive ways. So I think these are all good things, but I don't see anywhere near enough of the level of activism to justify the question, well, does activism work? I think it does work. I just don't think we have much of it.